Things have changed.
Ooh, a fresh pie. Save me a slice. That's good. Okay, that's good. Yeah, that's... Alright, that's good. Okay. Alright, okay, alright. Okay, that's good. That's good. It's enough slices!
Over the last couple of weeks, players are dropping more 50 bombs than Kobe in '07. Collectively, the entire league spent the first 3 months of the season going through the worst scoring drought in over a decade. But now, seemingly out of nowhere, we are getting massive scoring nights and career highs literally every single night. Is this huge bump in scoring due to some sort of competitive race? One guy has a big night and others join in to see if they can top it? Are players putting up bigger numbers because the league has decided to relax on the strict rule changes they made at the beginning of the season? Or is something much bigger going on here?
I think the players are just trying to have fun, and it's super competitive this year because there's so many dynasties happening, like the Lakers, Warriors, Suns, and all the teams are good right now. So everybody's just trying to have a good game and try to have the most points scored for for the season. But like Kyrie, like LeBron scored 56, then Kyrie scored 60, then Cat scored 60. So I think in a couple days or in the playoffs, some players gonna score like 65 or something, or even in the 70s maybe.
Today's video is brought to you by DraftKings. It's March, and y'all know what that means. Big tournaments. Pick your eating expectations for that matter. We saw the first 50-point game of the season on November 8th, just 19 days after the start of the season. We wouldn't see the second 50-point game
19 days after the season started. Every 19 games, there's like at 19 days, at least 13 of the games have somebody score over 40. It's not the players are getting more competitive now, since like in '07 when he was talking about Kobe, like there was not like a 3-point shooting craze like right now. Right now everybody's shooting threes, like big man, and even the big man and even point guards, small forwards, any position are shooting it, except even Westbrook and Ben Simmons are shooting it, even though they don't know how to shoot. So everybody's just shooting threes, and people have been practicing and making them, so that's why their points are going higher right now, currently.
until December 12th, 2.5 months into the season and just 2 50-point games to show for it. Things began to heat up a bit in January with 4 50-point games in a single month. And closing out the end of February, the league added 2 more 50-point bombs, bringing the season total up to just...
So, from October 19th to February 27th, there was only 8 50-point games, and in March, there's been like 20 or something.
Just 8. But on that last day of February, Ja Morant dropped a career-high 52 points against the Spurs. And then all hell broke loose.
What's it like to learn math on Brilliant.org? Brilliant gets you hands-on to help you learn by doing.
5 days later, LeBron drops 56 points. The third highest
56 points for LeBron is easy. I think if he actually tried, like he's not trying that much. Like you guys expect him to try like super hard, but he's not trying as much as he should. He could drop every player in the NBA, like all the superstars, like in the top 5 could average 50 points per game. They just don't want to.
single game total of his entire career. The next day, Jason Tatum scores 54. 2 days later, Kyrie Irving scores 50 points. 3 days later, LeBron scores 50. 2 days after that, Durant drops 53 points in just his 5th game back off of an injury. The next day, Karl Anthony Towns drops a career high 60 points. And then the very next day, Kyrie Irving pops off for a career high 60.
So 3 50-point games in a row. So there was 8 from the 28th to the 15th so far, and those 8 the whole season from October 19th to February 27th. There's only 8 over 50-point games, and from the 28th to the 15th of March, from the 28th of February to the 15th of March, there's already been 8.
60 points as well. The man is a part-time NBA player. And right when you thought this blistering scoring run was over, Sadiq freaking Bey drops a career-high 51 points against the Magic. What's going on? Usually NBA...
Magic in 3 days got 2 players scored over 50 points on them. One at 60, one at 51. Magic are just super bad at defense.
NBA fans are lucky if we get to watch a couple 50-point games in a single month. We just saw 9 50-plus point games in 18 days. In fact, the 8 50-point games in the month of March are the most in a single month in 60 years. Guys.
In March of 2019, 7, I get it, because that was when Kawhi was on the Raptors playing arguably the best basketball of his career. LeBron just starting off in the Lakers. AD in his last year in the Pelicans, I think. Yeah. And KD in the Warriors, Cousins on the Warriors. That's why they had so many 50-point games. But in March of 2022, it's just been crazy.
We are only 18 days into the month. And if that isn't crazy enough, here's a stat that'll really hurt your head. Out of the last 20 NBA seasons, only 9 of them had more than 8 50-point performances for the entire season, which means
2020 had 23? That's a lot. Even though they had all because of the bubble, when everybody was dropping 50s, it was like normal. I think Donovan Mitchell had 4 or something like that. Didn't he have like a whole series? Jamal Murray, Jokic, LeBron, AD, all of them. It was just crazy. And plus the regular season, which was a lot also.
in just 18 days, the NBA has produced more 50-point games than 11 of the last 20 seasons. Just a few months ago, we were watching superstars struggle to even get 30. And now we got Kyrie Irving scoring 41 points in the first half, Jordan Clarkson coming off the bench for 45, and an old man going for 56. So, what changed? Well,
first off, Jordan Clarkson should be a starter. I don't know why they just go do this as rotation. Conley, Mitchell, Clarkson, Bojan or whatever, the Bogdanovich and Gobert. Why don't they just do that instead of having him come off the bench and score 45? Like, he'll score way more for you guys than on the bench. I don't know why. It's just weird.
I think the explanation behind all these massive offensive games is very simple. Steph drops 47 on his birthday. Karl Anthony Towns puts up a career-high 60 on the anniversary of a very significant day in his life. Kyrie and Durant each having monster games after their game against Philly and James Harden. I think I see what's going on here. The NBA's best players are playing one big game of anything you can do, I can do better. Fueled by their innately competitive nature, these players are finding absolutely any reason to tee off on 30 shots and throw the playbook out the window as they barrel their way into the paint for another and one. Ja Morant's 52-point game was the first of this 3-week-long scoring barrage. But I think it really started with LeBron's 56. After watching LeBron go berserk, stars around the league took the opportunity to one-up him, or at least put on their best show. The Celtics have been on fire, so Tatum decides to take the liberty of giving himself a huge night by putting up a career-high 15 three-point attempts. Now, no one goes out and just attempts 15 threes, and those 54 points were no mistake. Jason Tatum went...
I think the coach planned that for him to play that much this game, because it was probably a big game because they were playing the Nets. So Jason Tatum just took advantage of it. He's like, oh, I'm playing so much this game, so let me just go off for 54. And 15 threes, nobody attempts that. It was probably in the playbook, and he was probably wide open a lot because the Nets was probably just not playing defense.
Went out of his way to have a career night. In the midst of talks regarding health and politics, Kyrie drops off a 50-point game. As a reminder that despite his part-time status, he too is one of the league's most elite players. And as the weeks go along, more and more stars join in on the scoring frenzy. Trae Young goes for 47, but is overshadowed by a 53-point performance by KD. And so he comes back with 46 points the very next night, but is outdone once again by Stephen Curry's 47-point birthday special and KAT's 60 points explosion. All on the same exact day. And as if things couldn't get any more out of hand, Kyrie follows up the performance of the season by matching Towns' 60 with a 60 bomb of his own. One thing I've been absolutely sure of for years is that the best scorers in the NBA could average 40 a game if they wanted to. And if the past couple weeks isn't proof of that, I'm not sure what is.
Yeah, like he was saying, any player any superstar could average 40 points a game. Their coach just won't allow them. Just because sometimes you don't know when Westbrook could average 40, but you don't know when he's gonna miss 20 shots in a row. Or same thing with KD, LeBron, Giannis, Harden, anybody. They could average 40. It's just they don't want to sometimes.
Because when you can score at the level of Steph and Durant and Kyrie, the difference between 30 and 50 is simply shooting more shots, which might possibly be the most obvious statement of the year. But many fans disagree with this idea. Oftentimes their rebuttal being, if they could average 40 a night,
Spurs and Magic got two. So Magic had a 50-point game on somebody. I forgot who. And then 60 from Kyrie. And Spurs had 52 from Ja and 60 from Towns. Both of them just...
why don't they? To which I can assume that person has never really played basketball before. Because despite being the best offensive options on their teams, these ultra-elite offensive talents can't just put up 30 shots a game. That would be a locker room disaster. Teammates would feel uninvolved, the offense would become stagnant, and it just isn't winning basketball. Michael Jordan ran into this problem a lot prior to the 1990 NBA season. Mike was scoring 40 points literally every other game for 3 years. He even had a stretch where he scored 40-plus points in 12 of 14 games. The dude could get a bucket at will, but it took him years to realize this style of play was never going to win him a championship. And as he found the exact role his team needed him to play, he began to win more and more as he scored the ball less and less. Trust me, if Kevin Durant wanted to average 40 a game, he could and would. If Giannis wanted to, he could. In fact, I'd argue that there are about a dozen players in the NBA right now that could go out and give you 40 a night if that was their sole mission. KD, Giannis, Steph, Kyrie, Harden, Embiid, Luka, LeBron, Ja, Trae, Jokic, Tatum. All of them could give you insane scoring numbers every night. But, like every great player knows, that will never get them to their ultimate goal. Take Kevin Durant, for example. Top 5 bucket getter in NBA history, but doesn't have crazy scoring averages. This season, when Durant scores 30 points or more, his numbers look like this. Now, when he scores between 20 and 30 points this season, his shooting numbers look like this. The only real difference is how many shots he's putting up. Now, riddle me this. If Durant's efficiency is nearly the exact same from 20 points to 30 points, do you think his efficiency would change from 30 points to 40? Time's up. The answer is no. Durant, among other offensive stars, could absolutely give you crazy numbers every night if that was their only objective. And over the last 3 weeks, we've seen what happens when stars make scoring their only objective. But I think possibly the most glaring example of this came back in 1994. Going into the last game of the season, a 21-year-old Shaquille O'Neal and prime David Robinson were neck and neck in the race for the scoring title. Both players having an average of exactly 29.3 points per game. In his last game of the season with the scoring title on the line, Shaq scored 32 points, keeping his scoring average virtually the same as it was before. But apparently David Robinson wanted the scoring title just a bit more than Shaq did, since Robinson exploded for a career high 71 points in the final game of the season.
This is basically like, say, Giannis and Jokic come down to one, and then Jokic goes for a 32 point because they have the same amount of scoring and are tied for first in the MVP race. Why don't and Giannis drops like 60 or 70, then obviously Giannis is gonna get it.
Bringing his scoring average from 29.3 to 29.8 and securing the scoring title for the season. Now, both Shaq and David played their last games of the season on the same night, but David's game was earlier in the day, which means he had to put up as many points as possible in hopes that Shaq wouldn't top him later that day. So going into the game, David and the Spurs had one goal.
Then why didn't Shaq, did he? So David put 70. Did Shaq like not know that David would put up 70? Just look. Don't you hear about it?
And one goal only. Give him the ball and give him as many points as humanly possible. Those 71 points were not a fluke. This historic night was no accident. David wanted to score a lot of points, and so he did just that. And there was nothing anyone could do about it. In an interview after the game, Robinson said, "It was unbelievable. As a leader, I just try to win games, but tonight my team really wanted me to shoot it. When the game started, they were looking for me almost every time."
Then why didn't Magic do that for Shaq? You just didn't care about it?
I'm down the court. Shaq also commented on Robinson's big night, saying, "They ran every play for him. If I hadn't been triple teamed and selfish and tried to score every time I touched the ball, I could have scored 72. Like I
Cat, no, he couldn't. He could have, but I don't think he would have. He's just saying that.
said, big scoring nights are no fluke for great offensive players. If they want to go out and give you 50, they will go out and give you 50. Which brings us back to this unbelievable 3-week stretch of NBA basketball. Game after game of huge scoring nights and career highs. You know, it's too bad these players really want to win. Otherwise, we'd see this stuff far more often. There's nothing like tuning into a game and watching history unfold in real time. Watching the crowd erupt shot after shot, knowing the man with the hot hand is coming down the court with only a bucket on his mind and nothing the defense can do to stop him. When a great player decides he wants to go off,
Did KD just have 55 today? And Kyrie at 31. These players just do whatever they want now. Like, Kyrie and KD had a game today against the Atlanta. Both of them together scored 89 points. And the rest of the Nets scored 29. So, basically, the rest of the Nets players didn't do anything. And they lost because of the Nets players.
it's going to go off. And when a different players decide they want to go off, you get 50-point game.
In that stretch where he was saying, like, a bunch of different players could score 50, I don't think he mentioned Embiid, because he could do it. What's his name? Tatum Brown could also do it. What's his name? Kyrie, yes, he could. I forgot his name. Ja. AD, yeah, AD.
Games every other night. So, I guess these games aren't really unbelievable. In fact, they're all part of the plan. Hope you all enjoy it. And as always, until next time.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything he's saying. And that's the end of the stream, okay? Bye.